Hello, all. Welcome to the first ever episode of History with R&R Presents the 100 Years' War. Now, this is a topic and subject that I have absolutely bloody clue on, which is, again, rare. But I know bits and pieces, and I'll probably remember things as we go. However, Arlena is a lot more versed in this topic than I am. So she is going to be leading us on, just as Loki is in the Vikings series. Arlena is going to be the lead, and I'm just going to be here to look funky, I guess would be the way to put it. Because I can't say look good, because I don't do that on a good day. So with that, Arlena, take us away.
Yeah, I thank you again for having me, and we're gonna have a. I hope it's gonna be a lot of fun. I like to have fun. I like to throw jokes in, and if
Oh,
you have any
absolutely.
questions at any time, just feel free to ask. I always said I wanted to be a teacher, a history teacher. I actually went to school to do that, and I would have been the crazy teacher that dressed up in period costume
You
to
would have been
teach
the
my
cool
kids
teacher, is
different
what you're saying.
subjects. Yeah. I
What you're
don't know if
saying
it
is
would
you
have
would have
been
been the cool
cool.
teacher. No, you would have been the cool teacher because the worst thing that a student wants is that hard up, pencil pushing little pain in the
Yeah, no.
ass. But
No, I like that was my goal is be a history teacher and dress up in period costumes to teach the kids about different periods of history. And then I found, the older I get, the less patience I have for children.
yep.
And I would end up knocking a kid out. So I decided that's not
Especially in
for
the
me.
modern day, they're taught
Yeah,
they can
yeah.
talk back.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I would
I
definitely
don't
beat a
remember
kid
that
up.
lesson when I was a kid. I don't
No,
remember that you are allowed to talk back. I remember the
no.
because I said so was a definite and absolutely acceptable answer.
Yeah, and don't you dare ask why
Yeah, no, there was no
after
why.
I say because I said so.
Yeah. Once because I said so has been put on the table, it's
Everything else is done.
yeah, it's just okay, this is what we're doing.
Hmm. Oh yeah. So with this, we're gonna start at the very, 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 very beginning, which is actually before the start of the Hundred Years' War. So all of it plays a part in what led to the Hundred Years' War. So you start in 1066, which a lot of people should know what that date is. William the Conqueror comes in and beats up everybody and becomes King of England.
Yes.
Well, actually, William the Bastard or William of Normandy, whichever you want to call him.
Yeah, one of the rare times where France gets the upper hand on England.
Yeah,
No.
he comes in, kicks everybody's butt, becomes King William the First, William the Conqueror. So with that, he also is the Duke of Normandy. So now Normandy and England are pretty much one, although
Yeah.
Normandy is still Normandy, England is still England. So after that, the next big land grab would be when Henry II marries Eleanor of Aquitaine. Then he gets all of Aquitaine, along with already having Normandy, and I believe at that point they had also during another series of skirmishes and stuff had Gascony. So you have Normandy, Gascony, and Aquitaine,
Yeah.
and then let's see. So the English end up owning more of France than the French king has
Yeah.
land in France. So it got a little crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the English king is like, I have to pay homage to the French king because I have all of this French territory and you're a king, but I'm also a king. I'm king of England, but I don't know about this.
I don't think
Why
this is a
should
fair deal.
yeah, why should I pay homage to you just because I have territories in France?
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not too sure about this whole paying homage thing.
Yeah.
So the one that started all of this was Henry III. He is the one that is known to have started the Hundred Years' War. Um, so, going back a little bit again, Roger Mortimer and Isabella of France. Uh, his father was actually, Edward, Edward II. Edward II married Isabella of France, who was Philip VI, the King of France's sister.
Okay.
So they had a kid, Henry III, ends up being Henry III. And because she was the king's sister, Charles, I'm sorry, it wasn't Philip. Philip was the cousin. Hold on, I'm
Okay.
getting mixed up. Let's
That's all
let's
good.
reverse a little bit.
That's okay.
So
Wait till you
I'm
get to William, William, and William or something because it's
oh
gonna happen.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that's actually William the Conqueror and then his son. Yeah, yeah, that
yeah.
too. But so in Charles the Fourth is the King of France, and he dies with no male issue, meaning no sons.
Yeah.
And it was Isabella was his sister,
Yeah.
and she married Henry II.
Yeah.
They had Henry III together, and through a big long series of lots of arguments and going back and forth with all the kids, all the sons with Henry II, and a whole bunch of turmoil. Isabella is also known as the she wolf of England, and she is
Ah.
a fascinating woman.
Yeah.
Um, she's one of them. Eleanor of Aquitaine is as well. Both of them are fascinating. If
Yeah.
you ever want to do a deep dive into Queens of England, Eleanor of Aquitaine and Isabella of France are two to definitely look into. Because
Yeah. They
everybody
might
knows
have.
about
They might
Elizabeth
have
the
stirred a
First.
couple of pots or two. You know,
Oh, they stirred quite a few.
just for
Because
fun.
during just for fun. Because
Yeah.
during all of this stuff that's going on, Isabella is encouraging her sons, and at that point, her and Henry too had like they were still married, but they're like, screw you, I'm gonna go do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So Isabella hooks up with this guy named Roger Mortimer. And then they go back, they gather an army because her and the current king of France, who is Philip Valois, her cousin, uh, he gives her an army, and her and Roger Mortimer go back to England and kick some ass over there, and they beat Edward and proclaim Henry III as the king, and he's only 14 years old.
Yeah.
So obviously, he
There's gonna be
can't,
some influence.
yeah, he can't
Yeah.
do much at 14 years old, even though, he's been well educated. He's seen all these battles. He has a whole lot of, he knows what's going on in the world. He's not dumb.
Yeah, but no 25, 30-year-old war veteran is gonna take orders from a 14-year-old.
Exactly. Even if he
Yeah.
is the king,
Yeah.
yeah, this ain't happening. Mm-mm, mm-mm. So they, you know, basically run the country. And then when he turns uh 17, he decides, you know what? I'm about tired of you.
Yeah.
I need you to go away. So he arrests and eventually executes Mortimer and has his mother arrested, and she's basically on house arrest for years and years and years and years.
Usually the
Um,
way it goes.
mhm, mhm.
So remember
So
this, gentlemen. If you're in
yeah,
if you're in the way and you're dating the one that's put you in the way, your head will roll. Not the
uh-huh.
woman. Your head
Eventually,
will roll.
eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um. So let's see. I'm trying to look at my notes, and I just kind of jotted everything down. Sorry.
All good. Can't be any more discombobulated than anything that I ever come up with. So
So, yeah,
you
right.
haven't gone off into a World War II rant yet, so
No,
you're doing good.
no.
I would have by now. Um,
So at this point, he's starting to come into his own. He's 17. He's running the country. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to kick some ass because I'm big and bad and I'm young. And yeah. So he he absolutely hates, and his father hated, and pretty much generations before him hated paying homage to the French king. And he's like, I got to do it. I hate doing it. I don't want to do it. I own more damn property than this dude does. But unfortunately, I have to go over there and pay homage to him. So, for those of you who don't know, homage is kneeling to the king and being subservient to him. And that was just because, you know, he was
yeah,
the king of where your territories are, and you were just a duke or an earl. Most of them were duchies.
yeah,
So most of them were run by dukes, but you're subservient to the king. And, they're over here like, we're also kings.
yeah,
Why should we have to kneel to you? So I actually wrote down the quote that was said to Philip VI when homage was paid to him because he, the king did not want to do it.
yeah,
So instead of being humble like he's supposed to be and
yeah.
not overly dressed, he walks into the court of France with his crown, with his
Oh,
jewels, with his broadsword, all dressed up nice and kingly. He goes up to him, he kneels, and he says, I become your man from this day. Unto you shall be true and faithful, and bear to you faith for the sentiments that I claim to hold for you, saving the faith that I owe to our sovereign Lord, the King.
yeah,
And at that point, Philip accepts it. They do the traditional kiss on the cheek and hug.
yeah,
And then he turns his back on Philip and walks out,
yeah.
which
That'll
is
do it.
unheard of. You do not
Yep,
turn your
turn your
back
back
on the
on the
sovereign
king.
of the country that you're in and walk out. You are asking for trouble. You are
Just a
asking
bit.
for it.
You might as well have slapped him in the face.
Might as well have. Because you're supposed to face them and bow and back away at least 3 steps. Nope. He just said, I'm also king, bitch. So I'm going to turn around and
Yep,
walk out of here just like I walked in.
yep, yep, yep. Yep.
So uh, Philip is ticked off at this point, and he's like, oh, I cannot believe you just did that to me. Henry goes on back across the water and hooks back up with his wife. And this is a little off topic, but just so you know, Henry III is responsible for the Hundred Years' War, but inadvertently, he's also responsible for the Wars of the Roses
Yeah.
because he is the one that had, I don't even know how many kids. They had like around 20 kids.
Yeah.
Uh, they had a buttload of kids, and a bunch of them were boys, which is where
Oh,
you
that'll
get
do it.
into the Black Prince and John of Gaunt, and you get into all of these different claimants to the throne, or that
Yeah.
could have been claimants to the throne.
Too many cooks spoil the stew.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the Black Prince dies, Richard II becomes king, and it's just a mess. It's just turns into a mess because he had so many children,
Yeah.
and it ends up turning into the Wars of the Roses, or what they used to call it back then was the Wars of the Cousins or the Cousins War.
Yeah.
But before that, he started the Hundred Years' War, which was actually not even 100 years. It was 116 years. But
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
100 Years' War sounds a lot better than the 116-year war.
Yeah. Yeah. Who needs accuracy? It just sounds better.
Oh, it sounds better. We'll
Sounds
just go with 100. And they make it a
just
nice
round
round
down. It's
number.
all good.
A nice round number.
Yeah. A round number. None of this
Yeah.
16 bullshit.
Yep.
Besides, there was probably about 16 years in there where we really didn't do much. So we could just
Yeah.
write those off and yeah,
Hmm.
we'll stick to the
Yeah,
exciting
there
part.
was other
Yeah.
stuff going on, so we just won't count those.
Yeah. 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 No biggie.
So Henry goes back to England, and through a series of events, they end up going to war again with
Yeah.
Scotland. Well, Scotland and France have an agreement they've had off and on for years during the medieval era and the Tudor era and Stuarts.
Yep.
Um, I mean, that's a relationship that was not really beneficial for either, but for
No.
some reason they went with it.
You hate them? Well, I hate them too. Let's do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
We're not going
The
to support
enemy
you in
of my
any
enemy
way,
is
but
my
yeah,
friend.
we're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Friggin'
I never understood that because it was never ever beneficial
no.
to either.
No.
But but he wins. Henry wins in Scotland, and it's a big win.
Yeah.
And he is so excited about this win that he decides, you know what? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna declare that it is me that is the rightful heir to the French throne.
Oh, yeah, that'll
And
do
by
it.
all accounts, he was technically right
Yeah.
because his uncle was the previous king, and it's his cousin who's on the throne now. So technically, he does have a better claim.
Yeah.
Well, he says this, and the French court is like, no,
Yeah.
not having it. We ain't gonna go with this. We don't want no Englishmen coming over to here trying to run France. We don't care how much property you own here. We don't
Yeah.
want it. And at this time, it's funny too, because at this time, the primary language in the English court was still French.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. They all speak French, and they're all related,
Yeah.
but they absolutely hate each other.
Well, I mean, let's fast forward just for a quick second. See, I told you I'd do it. Fast forward a quick second. World War One.
Hmm.
The Czar,
Hmm.
the Kaiser, and then the King of England
Hmm. And the
might have
Tsar
been
of Russia.
related. Yeah, they all might have been related. I'm just
Well, they were definitely related.
yeah, oh,
They were all definitely related.
yeah,
And they were all
just
related
that.
to their wives too.
Well, and, small problems.
Oh yeah. Um yeah, that happens.
Yeah, just oh darn.
Um, so 1337 is officially when it's decided that the Hundred Years' War has started.
Yeah,
When Henry decides to declare that he is the rightful heir to the French throne, and he's just not going to pay homage anymore. He's not going to do anything anymore because he just doesn't care, and he thinks that he can beat any French army anyway because he
yeah,
just beat the snot out of Scotland, and Scotland's a lot tougher than France
yeah,
during that time. So the first big battle that we have is, and we had to look this up before we started recording, y'all, because I'm like, I have no idea how to say this. It's Sloys. It's actually just like it looks, and I guessed it right, but I'm
yeah.
doubtful. because it's French.
Well, yeah.
So, you can say it any kind of crazy way. But the Battle of Sluys took place on June 24th, 1340. Now, this is the first really big battle, even though officially it was considered the beginning of the war was 1337. And the reason for that was prior to this battle, in 1337, 1338, wool was the biggest trade that England had. So they would be sending ships with escorts over to Calais and to different parts of the world to export their wool.
Yeah.
Well, during this time, the French ships were coming and picking them off and beating up on them. That's why they had the escorts, and the escorts weren't being entirely successful.
No.
And that it really helped hammer I guess that's why it's 100 years and not 116, because just in those, 2, 3 years there wasn't really any battles. They were just little
No.
skirmishes.
Little skirmishes.
So, that makes sense. It was just the French beating up on the ships, most of which were trade ships, which had no cannon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just go ahead and beat up on it.
Yeah. And hope the
Um,
Royal Navy doesn't show up. Um.
well, at that point, it wasn't that powerful
No. No.
anyway. So,
No.
I think the two ships that were really the biggest reason for them going into Sluys and then actually going into France was, I believe they were called the Edward and the Charles, and they were the naval vessels that were escorting some of the wool.
Yeah.
And they were huge ships. They were well defended. They had plenty of cannon and experienced soldiers and sailors on board. But the French came in, and while they knocked out a couple of the French ships, because there were so many more French ships than there were just the two English ships
Yeah.
that could fight, they ended up sinking both ships. And Henry is pissed at this
Yeah.
point. He's like, look, this has been going on. We've tried to talk to you. We've tried to do this. We've tried to do that. And I'm just not having it anymore. Let's head on over to France.
Yeah.
So, of course, they go in through Calais and they end up in Sluys. And this is the first big battle that occurred. And it's the first one that England also won unequivocally,
Yeah.
because they had smaller skirmishes that they had gone over there. England had gone over to France, smaller skirmishes that weren't really that important, and it was kind of a you win some, you lose
You lose
some.
some.
Some were
Yeah.
tied. There was
Yeah.
no real winner. This is the first big one where, no question about it, Henry III absolutely positively won.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes in there and he tears it up and he says, "Ha! I told you I'm going to
Yeah.
come in and I am claiming that throne because it is mine. I
Yeah.
have a better claim. I don't care what you say."
Yeah.
Yeah, then that causes all kinds of problems.
Well, of course.
And uh, we will get into the next bit of that next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in a way, he's kind of like, wait a second. I own most of France.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of already a king. You want me to bow to you? Are you on
Hmm.
crack?
Yeah.
At that point, the French king's better play
Hmm.
would have been just like, why don't we just call it even? You
Yeah,
stay over
instead of
there, and I'll
you,
stay over here, and we'll be good.
yeah,
But no, no,
instead
you
of you
gotta. Oh
coming
no, you
and
gotta
doing
bow
that.
to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Really, really.
Hmm.
I gotta. Yeah, no.
And I think that was one of the biggest things, especially with Henry knowing that he was a better claimant than
Yeah.
Philip was.
Well, not only that, but I mean, if you think about it, okay, so and I was thinking about this as you're explaining it, right? Because if you think about it, as you say, most of the time these people aren't actually kings. They're like
Hmm.
dukes,
Dukes. Hmm.
whatever, right? So they bow to the king. Well, if the king decides to declare war on England, you
Mm-hmm.
are immediately sworn to provide armies to invade England. So what
Yeah,
is he going to do? Invade himself?
exactly.
Right? Like, I'm not
Hmm.
bowing to you because I'm one of the people you could target. Um,
Exactly.
I'm a little bigger than you though, but although that didn't
Hmm.
matter later on. Thanks a lot, you bloody idiot. But
Right?
anyway, yeah, Robin Hood,
Mm.
Prince of Thieves has a whole new meaning when you go into the actual history because that's the idiot that lost half of France. Um,
Hmm.
just saying.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh
a
yeah.
little bit. Um, but moving on, we'll be back. We're gonna do these once a month, just like the Lokis. So every Friday of the third Friday of the month, we'll have another installment of the 100 Years War. So we're hoping that this won't take 100 years, but we're going to drag it out. All right.
Definitely going to drag it out. And if you guys have any questions about anything or any comments or anything, put it in the comments or
Yeah,
in the
and
chat
and
or
I'll bring it
whatever.
up to Arlena, and Arlena can answer it on the next one, and then we'll go from there. But we'll definitely be covering everything. Like I said, I'm just going to be kind of here. Arlena knows
Oh,
what she's talking about, and I don't, so that's rare for me.
and
Um,
I'm sorry, real quick. I'm sorry. I think I've been saying Henry the Third the whole time. I meant Edward the Third.
there you go. You know what?
Forgive
It was
me,
probably his
forgive me.
middle name. Um,
I'm so
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
y'all.
but
The
at
whole
that
time
time,
I meant
it's a bad joke. But you know what? At that time, it wouldn't surprise me if it was, Edward Henry, Richard,
Mhm.
John Paul the Third. Like it just
Yeah,
there was like four names, and they just recycled them.
yeah. And I could be wrong. I think I've been saying Henry, but I've meant Edward. It was
Yeah, but
Edward the
again,
Third.
there was like four or five names tops, and they just recycled
Yeah.
them.
Well, you want to get real confused, start going and study in France with their 16 Louis.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then when you get to the short guy with the tall complex, just let us know.
right.
Anyway, with that, take her easy, have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, y'all.